GCW News.
Good evening. This is GCW News. The Russian-captured Crimea peninsula is increasingly becoming a death trap for Russian forces, as Ukraine now has the capability to strike any target on the peninsula with long-range ATACMS missiles. According to The Economist, this makes Russia's most important asset a potential burden for President Vladimir Putin. Ukraine has the opportunity to influence Putin's political decisions and behavior through the strategic encirclement of Crimea. With the help of long-range missiles and intelligence, Ukraine demonstrates high efficiency in strategic operations on the peninsula. The Russian defense system has proven vulnerable to Ukrainian technologies and military strategies in Crimea. The potential separation of Crimea from the Russian Federation could lead to severe losses for President Putin and become a successful strategy for Ukraine. The Russian president invested considerable sums in the military infrastructure of Crimea, and now all of it is under threat, the publication writes. Crimea is a weak point for Russia. It has too much there to defend, and it is the best way for Ukraine to put real pressure on Mr. Putin in order to extract concessions in the future, the article says. The isolation of Crimea could push Russian forces away from southern Ukraine, according to former advisor to the German Ministry of Defense, Nico Lang. Now, the Russian occupiers can no longer hide in Crimea. Thanks to satellite and aerial intelligence provided to Ukraine by NATO allies, as well as deep knowledge of the territory and secret forces on the ground, nothing can move in Crimea without the knowledge of Ukrainians. With the advent of ATACMS and the intensification of drone use, every square meter of the peninsula is within the reach of the defense forces of Ukraine, writes The Economist. At the same time, the vaunted and very expensive Russian air defense system S-400 has turned out to be ineffective in Crimea. Ukraine uses decoy drones to force the occupiers to turn on their radars and reveal their positions. The data is immediately transmitted to the ATACMS launch teams, which strike within 6 minutes. Russian air defense is also vulnerable to sabotage by Ukrainian special forces operating in Crimea. The Economist points out that each S-400 battery costs about $200 million and is not easy to replace. The broader strategic success of the Ukrainian campaign in Crimea may become evident this summer when Russian vacationers flock to the sea. If the occupying power closes the resorts, then Crimea will finally turn into a source of depletion of Russian resources. Stay tuned for more updates on this developing story here on GCW News. Thank you for watching GCW News. Good night.